Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. What a remarkable day this has been. David Briley is now the new mayor of Nashville. Megan Barry resigned from the office this morning. We want to talk about all of that. We want to have you call in with your questions, comments. We're playing some of the video from the course of the day. And of course, very happy to have with us Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams. Phil, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Talking
about all of this. In a moment, we'll play the clip from this morning where the mayor resigns. But I want to ask you, there are two charges here. She pled guilty, is that right, to a theft charge. Kind of lay out for us what it is that led to her stepping down today.
Yeah, she pleaded guilty, and it's, this is important. She entered a conditional guilty plea, and we'll get into that and what that means in a bit, but essentially to theft of property, and we're talking about taxpayer money. And as part of that plea agreement with the DA's office, she was, number one, she was forced to resign as mayor. She will be placed on 3 years probation, and if she completes that 3 years probation, which we have every reason to think she will, then those charges will essentially be wiped from her record. It is what is called a judicial diversion. So even though she pleaded guilty to a Class C felony, she is not a convicted felon. Because it's only conditional, and if she behaves herself for the next 3 years, then it's as if this day never happened.
Do we have an idea of how the district attorney arrived at $11,000?
We received a statement late this afternoon from General Glenn Funk's office, and they say that the $11,000 represents essentially the travel that Mayor Megan Barry had with her police bodyguard and lover, Sergeant Rob Forrest. So that $11,000 that she must pay in restitution, and we're told has paid, is for the travel. Now, Sergeant Forrest entered a separate guilty plea to theft charges. Again, it's a conditional guilty plea, meaning at the end of 3 years it will be wiped, or can be wiped from his record. He will be required to repay $45,000, and the DA's office says that essentially represents a good estimate of the amount in excess overtime that he received as a result of this relationship.
The fact that she pled guilty and resigned, does that mean we're not going to see the details now? Is the reason, one of the primary reasons she did that, because the details that would have come out would have been so embarrassing that she just wanted to put this behind her?
Yeah, we had one of our former legal analysts, Jim Todd, on today, and he made an interesting observation. He said that, he felt like what she entered into really wasn't much of a sweetheart deal, because if she'd been indicted and had gone to trial, the judge likely would have given her this judicial diversion anyway. It was his opinion, and I tend to agree, that this was insurance against even more embarrassing stuff that could potentially come out. And when the DA released his statement, he was very clear, number one, that he has now asked the TBI to drop its investigation. There's no more need for an investigation. And he was very clear that the TBI's files are forever confidential. So we'll never know what else investigators had turned up.
So that's clearly important to Megan Barry.
Right.
So these details, some of those details, they're not going to come out. And you did the interview with her when she admitted to this.
Right.
At that moment, she was very contrite. She apologized. Do you get the sense she felt like she was going to weather this? She felt like if she came out and apologized and was contrite, that she would be forgiven and continue on as mayor.
Yeah, and it was really her argument that, yes, there had been a relationship that was improper. Yes, she should not have entered into this affair and should have ended the affair. But she really felt she had an argument that the police said she needed security. And so even if there was a relationship with Sergeant Forrest, taxpayers would have been paying for security anyway. And she really got a boost just a day or two after the first revelations, when Police Chief Steve Anderson sat down with us and said, I didn't approve all of this, but I would have. And so that really seemed to be kind of an ace that she had if this had gone to an indictment and gone to a trial, that the city's police chief is saying these expenditures were justified. And so I think she thought that she had a good argument.
So then what happened? How did it, do you think there were things that came up? She claimed she didn't know about the pictures, okay? There were nude photos that were found on a phone. She's saying they were taken without her permission. That would be on Sergeant Forrest's phone. Do you think there are things that came up that she didn't know about, or she was not being totally truthful when she said, we're just putting it all out there, there's nothing wrong?
I'm going to engage in just a tad bit of speculation here, but a number of lawyers in town thought that when the TBI did a public filing of the search warrant affidavits, looking for permission from a judge to search her phones, and in that affidavit they went into great detail about these nude photos apparently of her found on his phone, taken while they were on a trip to Washington that was paid for by taxpayers, taken during times when he was on the clock. There were a lot of attorneys in town who thought that's a shot across the bow. That is the DA saying, this is embarrassing, but it could get a lot worse. And so certainly, her family relationship had been damaged by this revelation, and certainly any future revelations could have been damaging to her personally and to her family. So, one presumes that could have been part of the equation.
It did seem like it was kind of just a shot across the bow. It's like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
There are two photos, and then at that point, they still hadn't gotten her phone.
Right.
So now they have information off of her phone, the passcode from her phone. We don't know what was on that. That first affidavit, that first filing had to do with his phone.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. All right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take your calls, talk about this. We want to hear from you. We're also streaming this live on our Facebook page. You can make a comment on our page. We'll read some of those comments. But let's start right now with the resignation from the mayor this morning. She held a news conference and officially resigned from office. This is about 2 minutes. Let's take a look at that.
Well, my time today as your mayor concludes. My unwavering love and sincere affection for this wonderful city and its great people will never come to an end. No one is as excited about this city and its bright and limitless future as I am. Nashville, with its boundless energy, its infectious optimism, it has never encountered an obstacle it couldn't overcome attitude, will, in the years ahead, continue its steady march toward the very top of the list of great American cities. It's a continued climb that I will watch, but I will watch as a private citizen, and I will be tremendously proud nonetheless.
So that was the mayor earlier today as she stepped down. Then later today, David Briley was officially sworn in as the new mayor of Nashville. We've kind of set the table here. We'll start taking your calls. We have a full slate of calls. So we'll start taking calls. Terry, Linda, others, hang on the line. Also, we'll start reading some of the comments on our Facebook page as we stream that live. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.